This is the first Zeekr to make it to Australia. It's called the X and it's a fully electric compact luxury crossover hatchback style SUV thing. Yes, it does blend a lot of things into one car and it does a lot of things really well, but stick around and you'll find out whether it's going to be the right car for you in this review. So if you haven't already, please like, subscribe and ring the bell and let's take a look at the Zeekr X. There are two different versions of the Zeekr X available in Australia at launch, and there's $8,000 separating them on price. Now, there's also a lot separating them when it comes to the powertrain stuff. We'll get to that shortly, and some charging differences as well. But let's talk about the standard specifications you're getting in that entry-level rear-wheel drive model at $56,900 plus on roads. You're getting things like 19-inch alloy wheels, two-tone exterior paint, yes, so a black roof, a panoramic sunroof, you get vehicle-to-load functionality, semi-autonomous parking, there's a 14.6-inch touchscreen media system, an 8.8-inch digital instrument cluster. You're also getting an auto-dimming rear vision mirror, Sentry mode, pet mode, and rest mode. And if you spend $4,000 more to get the convenience pack in that version, you're also getting a power-adjustable passenger seat, you get a power adjustable driver's seat as standard, you get driver's seat memory settings if you choose the convenience pack, plus heating and ventilation for the front seats, a heated steering wheel, a 13-speaker Yamaha sound system, and ice block LED ambient lighting on the inside. You're getting all of that stuff as standard if you choose the all-wheel drive top spec version. As well as that, you're getting 20-inch alloy wheels, still with Continental tyres, and you're also getting a 24.3-inch augmented reality head-up display. So besides that, you're getting more power, more torque, extra traction, and faster charging. But we'll get to some of those details later. Now let's talk about some alternatives to the Zeekr X, because wow, it's playing in a crowded part of the market. So you're thinking about $55,000 to $65,000 as your budget for an EV. Well, you've got so many choices available to you, including heaps of more practical, larger SUVs that you might want to consider. I'll put a link in the description below for a playlist of all my EV reviews. There's plenty there. But if you are thinking something, well, compact and stylish, you could have a look at the related Volvo EX30. It has a heap of really great features. It looks fantastic on the inside. There's rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive models available, and I think it has a real amount of wow factor to it, that car. It costs a little more than this, but you're getting a known brand, which might count towards your resale value. Now, if you're thinking, I want a mainstream brand, one that's more popular with regular buyers, have a look at the Hyundai Kona Electric. I think it could be a really fantastic choice if you are looking for exactly that. It's got that known nameplate element to it. It's practical, it's thoughtful, it has fast charging, and it's got a few different variants available, but it's also a little bit expensive for a Hyundai. So, hey, it might not be right for you depending on what you're after. And my outside alternative to this is the Renault Megane E-Tech. It's an electric hatchback. It's got European branding and it has some serious niceness to it. It's got a beautiful interior, it's got a really great looking exterior, and it's got plenty of driving range as well. And it's relatively affordable too, so it could be a really great choice for you. So would you choose any of those or something else? Let me know in the comments. Now, you might not be able to unsee this after I point it out, but to me, this section on the bumper that curls down at the edges kind of reminds me of Salvador Dali's mustache, or a handlebar mustache. I don't know if I like the look of the front of it, honestly. Personally, it's just not to my tastes, but I do like the profile of this car. It is the same sort of sweet spot size as a lot of other smallish SUVs at just on 4.4 meters in length. It's got a nice long wheelbase with battery pack in between the front and rear wheels, and I think it looks really smart. It's got pretty clever door handles as well. They're not as annoying as some of the other ones because you don't have to sort of do a two-motion pull or anything. You just put your hand in and pull the door like that, and it's very nice, I reckon. Got a nice sort of thunk to it. Your charge port's there. I'll get to some more stuff about the charging in a sec. And at the rear, you'll see it does have a nice rear light signature. I think it looks pretty tidy at the back. And there's just one badge to tell you that it's the X and one up here to tell you that it's a Zeekr. All right, that's the button you press to open the boot up there next to that Zeekr badge, and you can see for yourself that it's not the biggest boot. You'll see the cargo capacity figure on your screen now. It looks even smaller with this hard cargo cover in place. So let me just move it up out of the way a little bit. Yeah, you can see for yourself, It isn't a massive boot, but there is a clever storage section underneath the boot floor for some odds and ends. Maybe you could put some cables in there, but there is also a frunk. I'll show you that in a sec. You've also got these handy shopping bag hooks, and they're on either side of the cargo area. There is a light down there too. So I think it's going to be practical enough for you to be able to fit a small pram and some luggage, as I have over this week or so. And I think that it will be okay for some people's needs, but certainly not everyone's. Okay, let's open the bonnet and have a look at the frunk. Okay, so there is a custom made cable bag here to fit into the front section, which is a lovely, lovely inclusion. It's just a little bit fiddly. I mean, you can pull it out if you don't want it in there, so I can give you an idea of how much space there is to play with. Not heaps, and that's why this custom made bag fits in there very, very nicely. So what do you think? Is that going to work for you? I think that's good to have a frunk there. Like a lot of EVs, it does have an app so you can adjust things to the car remotely. So you can set your charge timer, you can set the temperature inside the car if you wish, and you can also open the boot, open the windows, sound the horn, and plenty of other things. Keep an eye on the health of the vehicle and heaps of other features. It's really easy to use as well, which is a plus. Now, you might be one of those people who just uses the smartphone app to get in and out of the car, but you do get an NFC card that you can tap on the B pillar. And there's also this key, which is an awkward thing. It doesn't have a key ring holder, so it does sort of sit in the middle of nowhereness in your bag or backpack. And it's also really annoying because it doesn't have illumination on the key, so you can't really tell which way is the right way up when you're pressing buttons in the dark. Cool, but not functional. I'll also mention you can use the key as an NFC card, so that might be another way of getting around the weirdness of the key. Fair to say, it looks pretty different to what else you could be considering for this kind of cash. This does have a high-end luxury interior feel to it, and I think that that will separate it from some of the rivals out there in terms of the wow factor. So yes, it does have one of those sort of squircular looking steering wheels, which is a little bit strange, but it's also got this digital instrument display in front of the driver, which is pretty easy to get your head around. It might take a little bit of learning. You have to use the steering wheel controls, which are very minimalist in terms of the design. So that's one of the themes with this car. It does have a fair bit of minimalism to the elements that are on offer, but thankfully you do get used to that screen pretty quickly. You've got a blinker, wiper, and high beam headlight stalk on this side. Your gear selector is on that side, and you'll see those little illustrations there that tell you that you need to tap it down when you're in drive to go into cruise control, and tap it down twice when you're in drive to go into assisted steering and cruising mode. So that takes a little bit of getting used to, but yeah, you will. So this little purple light section here, that's your driver monitoring camera system. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on, but yes, let's talk about some of the other elements here. So that is your door handle. Yep, believe it or not, push that and the door will open for you. And if that one doesn't work for whatever reason, there's a backup handle down there. Unless you just want to use that one, then you can. The window switches, yeah, they're minimalist as well, but they're also back to front. So you push forwards to put the window down. Usually you push backwards to put the window down. So I'll push backwards now and the window goes up. Very peculiar decision there. Now above you've got illuminated vanity mirrors. You don't get much in terms of overhead storage, but let's talk about the centerpiece of this interior. That is this big touchscreen media system. It's very quick to react. It's got a very fast processor and there's a lot of elements to this display. So I'm not going to do an hour deep diving into the controls here because honestly, there's easily that much worth of content in this screen. It's just so deep and you really, really need to get your head around it. If you're like me and you just want to use Apple CarPlay, then you can. It does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And I have been using that for my time in this car, but I have also had to do quite a few things through the screen to adjust things while driving and so forth. But there is a voice control system if you want to use it. That little bot up there will help you find your way around the screen. You can use it for your seat heating and cooling if you don't want to go through the screen to do that. Yep, you've got ventilated driver's seat and passenger seat for this high-spec all-wheel drive model, and there's also heating for the front seats. Memory settings for the driver's seat too for this top grade version. So yeah, there's lots and lots and lots of menus. You're going to have to spend a bit of time getting used to adjustments and changes that you might want to make. Like you have to go through the screen to adjust your side mirrors, for instance, and your head-up display. Oh, speaking of the head-up display, you can probably see it very faintly there. Yep, that has augmented reality as part of that display. So that will show you some instructions in, well, overlay basically onto your natural landscape. So yes, some of the other elements to this screen that you might want to adjust include your acceleration features, your regen braking, your steering, and you can also adjust whether you want it to creep forward in traffic or just be standstill, like auto hold. Yes, auto hold, for instance. There's other settings in there that will help you find your way through, but honestly, it's just really, really complex in terms of the screen, and you will need to spend some time learning it. You can power other devices. Yes, that's right. You can set your vehicle to load parameters there. Your climate control stuff is on screen as well. There are no physical buttons. If you adjust the fan speed like so, you can adjust the direction of the air like so. That top one you can't adjust. You can only turn it on or off. And there are other elements to this climate control system. So you can do an active cabin temperature control, which I wish I knew the other day when the readout was telling me that it was 51 degrees outside. That will keep the interior temperature at a better level. And there's also a couple of other modes like pet mode and sentry mode and so forth. But honestly, it would take me so long to tell you everything about this screen. If you are interested in this car, I really thoroughly recommend going and spending some time in it to see if you can deal with the depth of screen stuff. Down here there are some USB-C ports. So you've got a 60-watt charger, that's very fast, 27 on that side. There's a pop-out handbag hook there, which is pretty nice, and there's another little cubby there for storing loose items. Down here you will find a cup holder, but it turns into two cup holders, which is handy. That's the key. It's a bit of a strange one. And this section here also will be coverable if you don't want people to see whatever's in there. Here you'll find you've got a 50-watt wireless phone charger, and it has ventilation in there as well, so your phone shouldn't overheat. There is no glove box for this car though, so that is a consideration. You do have your owner's manuals. Well, they're in the boot of this car in that hidden storage section underneath. There's an ambient light section there. You've got ambient lighting in the doors as well. It's pretty hard to see, but it's there. It's in the front doors and in the back doors, so the kids will love that. And you've also got these beautifully trimmed, lovely, sumptuous and comfortable seats. This is a gorgeous material finish. And if you're not so sure about this two-tone finish on the inside, there are other options available as well. I like it. I think it has some standout factor to it, but I can understand why you might not. Right, let's check out the back seat space. Okay, so this seat is set for my driving position at 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall, and the issue I have is foot space. So I can tuck my feet in under there, but if someone tall is driving, that's not going to be comfortable, I don't think, for some people in the back. And look, I really like the design of these seats. I love this rose gold finish across the trim line there, but you've also got these very weird matte pockets, triangulated matte pockets. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And there's other elements of triangles in the back here too. So you've got these triangulated speakers, and yes, same sort of door buttons there, and triangulated bottle holders down there too. So I think that they've done some interesting stuff in the back, there's no doubt about that. And speaking of which, you've got lights up here. So yeah, they're just little touch control lights, a nice big glass roof, which is pretty plush, and it's tinted as well. It does get a little hot, but it's not too bad. And there's coat hooks on the sides there as well. Now, I've got my daughter's child seat in here. She was pretty comfortable in the back here, and I think you'll be able to fit a rearward facing seat so long as whoever's sitting in front is not too tall. I think it's practical enough, this car, certainly for a lot of families' needs. There are ISOFIX points in the window seats and 3 top tethers as well, plus a flip down armrest here with cup holders too. And the big thing is that you do get directional air vents. You'll see them over there in the pillars. So there's one on this side as well, obviously. But that does well, have limited airflow to the back. The other day it was really hot in here and my daughter was not comfortable at all. That means there are no directional air vents where the traditional position is, and there's this little lever thing which I think is designed so you can pull this middle section out for whatever reason. No charge ports there, but there is one just there, just one. So might mean a fight for the charging cable in the back, but I think that it's going to be good enough for small families' needs or as a second or maybe even third car. Righto, let's talk powertrain options available in the Zeekr X lineup for Australia. There's the entry-level version, the single motor model, which has 200 kilowatts and 343 Newton meters of torque. It is rear-wheel drive, has a single-speed transmission, and does 0 to 100 in 5.6 seconds. And then there's this one here, which is the dual motor version. It has 315 kilowatts of power, 543 Newton meters of torque. So yes, a whole lot more grunt, and it's a whole lot quicker too. 3.8 seconds, 0 to 100 for this car. So no doubt that it's going to give you that throw you back in your seat feeling. But let's talk about range and charging for the Zeekr X. The entry-level version of the Zeekr X comes with a 540 kilometer ADR claimed driving range. And this all-wheel drive version, which is heavier and has more power and more torque, has 470 kilometers of ADR claimed driving range. Now, they both use the same 66 kilowatt hour lithium-ion NMC battery pack, but obviously the rear-wheel drive one does stack up a little better from the range perspective. But let's talk charging. So your charge port is on the rear passenger side of the vehicle, good for street parkers. And keep in mind that the rear wheel drive version has 7.2 kilowatt maximum AC charging. That means 11.5 hours 0 to 100 for that charge rate. And this top spec all-wheel drive version for AC improves that to 11 kilowatts, so 7.5 hours 0 to 100% charging. Now, there's also obviously DC charging with the Type 2 combination plug for Australia. 150 kilowatt is the limit for both versions on sale in Australia. That should mean a recharge time of 30 minutes from 10 to 80% if you can find a fast enough charger. So I think it stacks up decently in terms of the range and charging considerations, but let's go see what it's like. And remember, this one's the all-wheel drive, so has some compromises, but it also has some wow factor in terms of the speed. Let's check it out. So let's drive the Zeekr X and see what it's like. As I said, this one is the all-wheel drive top spec model, so it's the fast one. So yes, it can do really, really fast things. It's not really about that for me, this car, but I'll show you anyway. Yep. And that's not even in the fast mode. It threw me back in my seat, and it'll throw you back in your seat. I guess that's the thing. It's got immense power and torque. It's got all-wheel drive, so it really does slingshot you at the horizon. And this is one of the things about EVs. Not all of them are this fast, and arguably not all of them need to be this fast either. It is a very, very quick car, but that's sort of at odds with the drive experience more generally in some ways, because it's a very plush car. It's very comfortable. It's designed to feel luxurious, and well, they've nailed it in that regard because it has a relatively supple ride. It's comfortable in most situations despite having 20-inch wheels with low profile tires. And sure, it does have that telltale electric car stiffness to the body, so you can feel like things can feel a little bit stiffer when you're going over bumps. It sort of feels like your whole car is moving with the bump, but I don't think it's a deal breaker, and it's certainly no worse to ride in than some other EVs for similar money, in my opinion. In fact, I think it rides a little better than the Volvo that it shares some componentry with. So the drive experience in that regard is good. The steering too has a nice amount of directness and accuracy as well. It's also relatively light feeling, so it doesn't require too much arm work to get you around the corner. But I think that for most people's needs, this is going to be a perfectly acceptable and perfectly livable little electric crossover style car. It's not feeling like an SUV to drive. It feels a bit more like a hatchback, same like that Renault Megane. but still, I think that Renault Megane ticks the box a little more for me for a few reasons. But part of the reasons that it does is because that Renault Megane doesn't have any of the annoying safety features that this car does. So it's got this driver monitoring camera system, which has the ability, or capability maybe, to tell you when it thinks that you are distracted or when it thinks that you are tired. And yeah, it got it wrong quite a few times while I was driving it the other day. Maybe I was distracted or tired, but yeah, it made me more distracted and more tired of driving the car because honestly, it can get on your nerves a little bit. There's also the speed sign warning system. So it has, well, a camera that reads the speed signs ahead, and it will tell you if you are going over the speed limit that it thinks you're in. Right now, it just went to a 25 speed limit. There is no such thing as a 25km/h speed limit in New South Wales. There is in parts of Australia, but not here, so that's a bit weird. But thankfully it's not beeping and bonging at me, which is a plus, I have to say. The driver distraction thing is the more annoying element of the safety suite here. And more generally, it does have a few too many chimes, like the blind spot monitoring system will chime at you if it thinks that you are going to merge in on someone when, you know, you're fully aware of your surroundings. So yeah, that can be frustrating. And yeah, the audible elements of this experience can also just get on your nerves a little bit. Maybe that's exacerbated by the fact that it is otherwise relatively silent. It does have a bit of road noise intrusion at highway speeds or freeway speeds when the road surface is a little bit coarser, as is typically the case in Australia. So yeah, I think, you know, just take it for a test drive and see if you can live with the systems and the loudness from the tires. It's not too loud, but it is noticeable. And I think you'll find that this is a pretty well sorted electric vehicle. And apart from those considerations, there are no real significant compromises in terms of the drive experience. It's quite good. Okay, so like I said, there are two different versions of the Zeekr X available. The entry-level rear-wheel drive, you'll see the official combined cycle energy consumption figure for that one on your screen now. And if you're wondering, I'll put up the all-wheel drive version's number on your screen now. So there is a penalty to pay from the extra weight, power, and torque that you get from this all-wheel drive model. And yeah, it's not a deal breaker, I don't think, but if you're wondering what I've seen over my time testing this car, including a mix of driving, urban, highway, freeway, in and out of town a couple of times as well, you'll see that number on your screen. And I think that that is respectable, definitely. Certainly better than some of the other dual motor all-wheel drive electric models I've driven in the past. But hey, if you're really into the efficiency thing, it might be worth waiting for some of the other Zeekr models to come, because they are going to promise really, really good efficiency for vehicles that are basically bigger than this one and potentially more practical. So make sure you subscribe and ring the bell, and you'll be notified when I do any new car review and any new Zeekr review too. The Zeekr X achieved the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating against the strictest criteria yet, so it does have all the tech and spec to achieve that kind of score. Things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. There's also a lane keeping system with advanced lane keeping and adaptive cruise control. So that means the car can do some stopping, starting and steering for you. There's blind spot monitoring. There's front and rear cross traffic alert as well. You get a surround view camera system as standard, front and rear parking sensors as standard, and a semi-autonomous parking system too. So it's got all that great tech, but it's got some annoying stuff as well. Things like the speed sign recognition system can be a little bit insistent, and there's also the driver monitoring camera system, which has two modes to it. So there's a fatigue monitor and a distraction monitor, and they are actually more distracting than driving this car. So I hate them, and I think they should be improved, but yeah, hopefully they can make some changes to that, because it is a little bit too nanny state for me. Now there's 7 airbags fitted to this car, dual front side, a front center airbag to prevent you from clashing heads with your passenger in a side impact, and also curtain airbags for both rows of seats. In Australia, Zeekr is offering a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is good for private customers, but if you're a commercial buyer, it's a slightly shorter warranty, 3 years and 120,000 kilometres. Now, there is also a battery warranty, of course. An 8-year, 160,000 kilometre standard plan is what you get with this vehicle, and you're getting cap price servicing as well. Plus, the service intervals are every 24 months and 40,000 kilometres, which could stack up very well if you do a lot of distance and live a long way away from your service centre for the Zeekr. Now, you're also getting roadside assistance included for 5 years and connected services included for 5 years as well. So your data plan for any of that online connected stuff is covered, which is good to see. I guess the biggest consideration really is going to be resale value because, well, EVs haven't been the best when it comes to retaining their value, and this is a new brand which has some unknown elements to it as well. So yes, might be worth keeping in mind. I really like the Zeekr X in a lot of ways, but there are some elements to it which could be better. There's no doubt about that. Those safety systems are a bit too insistent and incessant, and the fact that you have to switch them off again every single time you drive the car if you don't like them really is something that leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth. But you might be fine with those systems, you might find them helpful, but I don't. But hey, look, I think that this is a compelling option for someone who's looking for something that looks different and feels different to what else you could buy for similar money. But tell me what you think about it in the comments section below. Would you go for this or one of those alternatives I mentioned, or something completely different? I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please ring that bell. It does mean a lot to me, and I'll see you when I see you.